If you live in the United States like I do, you are quickly going to realize how seriously people take their career or their line of work. The moment you meet somebody, it's often the first question that is asked is, what do you do for a living? And while a lot of people take great amount of pride in their work, and as they should, everything that you put your time and energy towards, you should be very proud of. However, it's not your personality and it should not define you in every moment. You should be doing things outside of your work, and that stuff should be high quality activity. And what you do on your free time will dictate the amount of people or the type of people that you attract. And it's very important that you guys have high quality activities and high quality hobbies that will attract the people you want into your life. Because if you don't, it's just not going to work for you long term. You're going to be stuck with people that you aren't really proud to be around. And you're going to wonder, where did all the good people go? Where are all the high quality individuals that I want to surround myself with? Let's pretend there's a set of twins. Twin number one goes out every night, drinks till he barely can walk, doesn't really take care of his personal fitness, his hygiene. He kind of just lets things slide. Now let's think of the other twin, the one that works on his business, works out consistently, makes time for weekly meditation, and has a Sunday night dedicated to jiu-jitsu. Which one do you think will attract high quality people? Exactly. So I'm going to share with you guys 5 different ways or 5 different attractive hobbies that you need to implement into 2024 in order to attract the people that you want. First thing we're going to talk about is reading. It is so important to be reading books. It should be high level books, whether it's your financial modeling, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Think and Grow Rich, 48 Laws of Power. These self-improvement books you need to be reading. And it's going to not only be very beneficial for your knowledge, but those around you will notice you. They'll notice that this kid's reading. It's so uncommon to see somebody under the age of 25, even under the age of 30, sitting down in a public setting reading a book. It's very boring to most people. Most people are just mind-boggled on how you're able to just look at paper with words on it. There's no flashing screens, there's no half-naked person, there's no sounds going off, there's nothing really stimulating you. But here you are reading that book, peaceful as can be. I remember I used to work retail, and whenever I was on break, when I was finished eating my lunch, I would read my book. And my coworkers, even my managers, would walk by and they'd ask me, what are you reading for? Is that for our class? And when I explained to them that I'm reading for my own personal gain, they were mesmerized. It's that huge wow factor, and people kind of put you in a different realm and they look at you with higher level of class and sophistication. If you want to put yourself in that category, reading is the easiest way to do it. And books aren't even that expensive, guys. You can find high quality self-improvement books for like $20. Make that investment and you're going to get a huge ROI on it. And when other people who read see you reading, they will waste no time to give you different book recommendations. The next very, very attractive habit is learn how to play an instrument. I know growing up in high school, the marching band kids or the kids that were in choir, the whole musical scene of the students was not very highly looked upon. A lot of guys don't realize how beautiful it is to play an instrument, how attractive it is to women that you're able to play an instrument. Think about this, or even imagine this scenario, and I'm going to have you close your eyes for this. You're in your college student center, and there's students surrounded all around with different friend groups, just chatting, talking about life, light conversation, and there's this huge piano right in the middle of the room. Imagine if you walk up there and you start playing a nice song for everybody. Think about how people will look at you. You will get the smiles from the girls, the guys will nod their head and even give you a round of applause when you're done. And it's a good scenario to be in. And now you're seen as very high status, which is also a huge factor of attraction. I've seen this actually happen before. I remember I was in a student center and I was doing my schoolwork, and there was a piano on the other side of the room, and the whole room was surrounded was filled with students. This one kid goes up, starts playing, and a lot of people went up to him and started talking to him right afterward. It's almost as if you're a mini musician, how when artists perform on big stage and concerts, there's raving fans. Obviously, it's a very dialed down version of that, but you still get that same effect that can be very beneficial for your social status. Also, the type of instrument that you learn how to play is very important too. I want you guys to go for either a guitar or a piano. If you had to choose one or the other, I say a piano is more practical and it could be used in more scenarios of luxury per se, especially on how you want to set up your life. So if you're one of those guys that wants to work really hard and have a nice house or a nice penthouse, you can have that piano in the living room or near the balcony where you could play for your woman or even play for your friends when they're over. I think it's a very beneficial instrument to learn, and it's going to take time. It's definitely not easy, but the sooner you'll be able to reap the rewards of learning how to play an instrument. A nice red piano. So if you really want to buy a nice one, buy a nice red piano. The next thing we're going to talk about is learning how to speak another language. How attractive this is to women, very, very high. Especially if you're able to speak a language that you might not natively have been brought up with. Maybe you went out of your way to learn this language. When you're in different countries and you could speak to the native people. Let's say you take your girlfriend to France and you're able to speak 85% proficient French to the native people there, and people welcome you more. They feel that sense of relatability. And that's a huge thing that guys look over. But being able to relate with people from all different parts of the world just makes you a more valuable human. It makes you more accepted and makes people want to share things with you, and just overall increase level of trustworthiness. Put yourself in this position and I promise you, you will see a huge ROI. Not only will it help you for the social aspect, but maybe you want to have a job out in Turkey and you want to be able to speak the native language there, or if you want to increase business in global aspects and go more international, you will be a lot better suited if you go in there knowing the language. It's a level of respect you give to the people there, and it just makes them want to be a part of your journey. While there are various different languages for you to learn, if you are having difficult picking which one to follow and which one to learn, I would say go off of what is the second most common language in the area that you're currently living in. Assuming you obviously speak the number one most common language. So I live in the US and English is the number one. So number two, which is written on all the back of food labels and beverage labels, is Spanish. So it would be in my best interest to learn Spanish. The Spanish speakers in this location is very high. I would get a huge ROI if I learned this language. But if I learned a different language like French, it might not be as beneficial in this certain location. So the location that you live in, or the locations you plan to travel with, do business with, that's who you should try to learn the language after or for even. The next attractive hobby is some sort of combat training. I'm telling you, you have to get yourself into one of those boxing gyms, jiu-jitsu, sparring, any of those things that really make you feel like a fighter. You're going to get your butt kicked a few times, and rightfully so. You need to be humbled. I know a lot of us think very highly of ourselves, but sometimes it's beneficial to get embarrassed in front of a group of audience. Everybody has to start somewhere. So even if it starts with you just punching a bag, that eventually will lead into you either getting into the ring or just sparring with your friends. I think sparring might be the best option because you don't want to get super into it to the point where you're bleeding all the time or you have huge bruises, because that's not attractive. When you become a good fighter, you're going to have a certain level of swagger whenever you walk into a room, knowing that you're able to defend yourself if need be. And that is very attractive to women. That is where you're going to get the huge ROI from the female gaze in that sense. But in terms of how fast you throw a punch, how long you can last in a ring, maybe how difficult of a circumstance could you put yourself in for a extended period of time, that's more for the guy attraction or for the male gaze of attraction. The last thing is a really, really good one. I want you guys to do this correctly, because if this is done incorrectly, it's not going to have the proper effect that it should be. And this is doing some sort of creative activity, whether that's being able to draw or being able to, I don't know about sewing. Sewing, I don't think sewing's that attractive, but I want you guys to get into origami. It's one of those things you learned growing up. Maybe if you went to a certain high school, you guys probably made those little fortune tellers and you guys went back and forth. But if you're able to make origami for somebody and you leave it to them as a gift, but the thing is, you can't tell them. You have to be very sly about it the first few times. And the thing is, the girl that gets the origami has to be like a high level girl. It has to be a girl that you've been seeing and you guys already have chemistry established. Like, you guys obviously like each other. You guys might even be dating. And what you should do is make a swan quickly before she could get back from, like, let's say the restroom. If you guys are at a restaurant, let's say you guys are at a restaurant and she goes to the bathroom, make like a little swan out of the napkin or something, and then just leave it in front of her. And then if she asks, like, who made that, just act clueless, but like smile so she knows, like, you know you're lying. So it's not like anything mean or anything. But then on the way home or on, like, the next time you go to her house, I'd make the origami. You could pre-make it and just kind of keep it in your pocket. Whenever you guys are hanging out at her house, just make sure to leave one either on her kitchen table or like her nightstand, just so she can see it and it reminds her of you every time she looks at it. It's something for her to always kind of remember you by, especially if you're super busy and you're an entrepreneur or you work a lot of hours. She doesn't have that pleasure of always seeing you, but she could always, look back at that nightstand where she sees that little crane that you made her, and then she's gonna think of you. So it's something cute. It's not a lot of effort, but it has to be executed extremely well in order for it to be effective. Don't do this too soon, because if there's no real relationship there, she's just going to throw them out. I've actually saw this done by the Michael Scofield in Prison Break. Whenever he would do something for the nurse would do something for him, he would leave her a piece of origami, and it was her way of knowing that, like, he's always with her. It's one of those things that girls really like, so I really recommend you guys learning how to do that. You don't even have to learn too many different origami shapes. Learn like a few and then just give it to her whenever, or you could just learn one and make it with different colors. Be creative with it, put your own twist on it, but just utilize in the right setting. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you guys really take down these attractive habits and are able to attract the people you want. I'm really curious to see what you guys have to say.